Well, an intense downpour that has thrown India's financial capital into total disarray with the relentless deluge that has caused widespread waterlogging, crippled major traffic corridors, and has resulted in 2 tragic fatalities linked directly to civic infrastructure failures. Waterlogged roads have now become dead traps. Across Mumbai and its suburbs, people are paying with their lives for the alleged failures in electrical safety. In just days, multiple electrocutions incidents have now turned into a routine errands into fatal tragedies. That has also raised serious questions about the accountability and public safety. And first up, let's get you this report one by one. One of this report is coming in from Mumbai. A 17-year-old girl with a whole life ahead of her was walking through a waterlogged street. She stepped into water, was electrocuted and died on the spot. And what was the worst part? This was preventable. Now, the residents have been screaming for help since the 15th of June, warning that the power department about the dangerous exposed electrical hazards. The authorities did nothing. And now a teenager is dead. And the police have finally filed FIR against the power officials. And the nightmare that doesn't stop there. Another one. 42-year-old woman lost her life also after being electrocuted by a live wire lying in the rainwater in Dombivli East. The victim, identified as Shashi Rahul, had stepped out to buy food and other essentials for her 2 young children. Unaware of the danger, she walked through the water, came in contact with the live current and died on spot. Then, in Navi Mumbai's Nerul area, 2 girls suffered an electric shock while wading through rain water that accumulated between a bridge, both of them who were rushed to the hospital for treatment. And such has been the case one after the other, almost on a daily basis, ever since the rain started in Maharashtra have now been unfortunately been reported. Coming from Mumbai, coming from Navi Mumbai, and also coming in from Dombivli. And that seems to be the context that what we are now learning. Let's connect with Rakesh on then. And before we also connect with our viewers who are joining us here on the broadcast live, so we can share your opinion as well on what are your thoughts on the unpreparedness as far as the civic bodies have done, especially coming in from Maharashtra. One of the richest civic bodies that we talk about is that of the BMC running in Mumbai. Now, Rakesh, the incidents that have once again raised concerns over public safety and civic preparedness during the monsoon season. Every year, the same story repeats.
Yes, that's right, Amita. And in fact, the danger is not over yet because the IMD has predicted in next 24 to 48 hours, it's going to be the red alert in Mumbai and around the city. And it's going to rain heavy to very heavily. That is the prediction. And so far, the incidents which have been reported are raising the more concern that we are still going to face 24 to 48 hours, which will be the critical for the city. And along with that, today the high tide is scheduled at about 2 p.m. when 4.2 meter, that is about 15 feet high, tides are expected in the sea, and that is why the people are also advised to to take precaution before venturing out near the seashore area. I have a few common person with me, public with me. Let me ask them that what is your opinion about the incidents that are taking place, especially when it comes to Mega Road, Navi Mumbai, Dombivli. People are dying because of the manhole, electric shock, or maybe a tree fall.
See, on one side we are happy that it's raining because since many days it was not raining. So it's a good sign that we are getting rains and there is no shortage of water. But at the same time, we have a mixed emotion because a lot of damages has been done. Trees are falling, a lot of tragedies happening, school bus damaged, one kid lost his life.
But do you think that the Mumbai deserves this after paying a high tax? We are the GST capital of the country.
So it's very sad to see that even after paying so many taxes and paying taxes on time, still we are not getting the infrastructure or the required things that needs to be done to stop the water flooding and all that.
Well, Amita, let me also tell you that I am here at the Lokhandwala, which is one of the posh areas of Mumbai, where people pay crores of rupees to buy a flat or to buy a commercial property, and then they face waterlogging. And not just that, when an incident happens, the administration they announce that amount will be given as a compensation, which may not fulfill the sorrow, the pain of the family members, definitely for sure. Apart from that, only an investigation is ordered, a probe is ordered, few people are held accountable, they are put behind the bars. Hopefully, they are put behind the bars, but this is the repeat story every year that we see. But in fact, there is no precautionary measures every time seen by the administration.
Yes,
Back to you,
because
Amita.
that seems to be the story that unfortunately every year that repeats. Now that the BMC, we are looking at a different administration, but it seems on ground, nothing much has changed. And this is not just about electrocution. If we get you the other, when it comes to these incidents, these tragedies that are now being reported, open pits, uncovered manholes are proving to be as deadly as in this monsoon season. The viewers watching this and you have any opinion to share with us, please do dial in on the numbers that are flashing on your screens right now. Now in Andheri East, let's talk about what happened with 60-year-old Aslam Sheikh, who lost his life after falling into an open manhole in the Kherani Road. A drainage project that was underway, but the manhole had allegedly been left unbarricaded and was completely submerged under floodwater. Following this incident, 4 BMC officials have been suspended. And that, Rakesh, only seems to be a tokenism that has now been done on part of the authorities there. When it comes to the lower rung of the officials, what we are now looking at, they have been suspended. But where does the accountability lie? Let's listen into this reaction.
ये जो घटना यहाँ पे घटी है ये बहुत ही क्लेशदायक है, बहुत ही दुर्दैवी घटना यहाँ पे घटी है। मुझे उसका बहुत दुख हो रहा है। इतने सारे निर्देश देने के बावजूद भी मैंने रिव्यू मीटिंग लिए थे हर मैनुअल, लेकिन अगर यहाँ पे मैं बताना चाहूंगी तो ये मैनुअल्स, इसके ऊपर ढक्कन था, वो पैक था, लेकिन उसको निकाल के उसको जारी बिठाने का काम किया। ये बहुत बड़ी मिस्टेक है प्रशासन की। इतने बड़े रेल अलर्ट होने के बावजूद यहाँ पे पानी अगर जमा है तो लोग जो चलते हैं पेडिस्ट्रियन, उनको दिखेगा भी नहीं नीचे का। ये जो मैनुअल्स किसी को भी नहीं दिखेगा। मैं भी चलूंगी तो मुझे भी नहीं दिखेगा अगर पानी है।
Now, that is the explanation coming in from the mayor's side. Let's talk about another case, because here, when it comes to death, it has no age group. Now, when we talk about right from a 70-year-old man to a 2-year-old child, Soham, who died after falling in an uncovered pit that was dug for stormwater drainage while playing outside his house. Now, with the rainwater filling the pit, the danger was impossible to spot. Initial investigations indicate that the work had been left incomplete without necessary safety measures in place. And there has been 2 separate tragedies, the same disturbing question as to why basic safety measures are missing until lives are lost. Well, in this mind, we also talk about, as far as there are other cases that have been reported, and this is now coming in from Meera Bhayandar. Let's put that out also for our viewers. Another rain-related death that has now been reported near Mumbai. A motorcyclist critically injured 2 days ago when a coconut tree fell on him in Meera Bhayandar passed away in the hospital today. Rahul Ashok, at the age of 35, died at the hospital while undergoing treatment, and he had sustained critical injuries when a coconut tree fell on his moving motorcycle in the area of Meera Bhayandar. And 2 days ago, amidst heavy rainfall, a coconut tree that suddenly collapsed on his bike while he was passing along the road, leaving him to be critically injured. And unfortunately, 2 days later, he succumbed to the injuries. Let's connect with Rucha on this. Rucha, it is coming in from any part of Maharashtra. The stories, however, follow the same rule and the same question that is pointed out towards the civic authorities. When they have rest of the year to prepare themselves for any untoward incident, why is that every year repeatedly we see the same stories coming in? People are losing their lives. They are paying with their lives.
First of all, I would like to mention that the budget BMC has, the Asia's richest budget, crosses 80,000 crore rupees. But where is it used? This is the question that every Mumbaikar, every taxpayer is asking, because
I'm told that Sanjay Ghadi ji is connected with us. Sanjay ji, आपको मेरी आवाज आ रही है सर?
आ रही है
जी। संजय जी, ये लगातार हर साल की कहानी बनता जा रहा है। जैसे ही मानसून महाराष्ट्र में आते हैं, अब एक एक करके अगर इस तरह के इंसिडेंट्स अगर होते हैं, लोगों की जान जा रही है, तो फिर अकाउंटेबिलिटी फिर किसका नुकसान हो रहा है, लोगों का या सिविक अथॉरिटीज का? क्योंकि एक्शन ऑन ग्राउंड फिर लिया ही नहीं जाता है। आप इनके बारे में क्या कहेंगे सर? एक एक करके रोज लोग मर रहे हैं।
देखिए, दुर्दैवी घटना है। 2 इंसिडेंट्स हो गए बारिश शुरू होते ही। एक 10 साल का बच्चा विहान स्कूल बस में से आते समय उस पेड़ गिरने के कारण उसकी मौत हो गई, और कल ही साकिनाका में एक मैनहोल्स में एक आदमी गिर करके उसकी मौत हो गई। और इसके बारे में हम सभी लोगों ने प्रशासन आयुक्त मैडम को भी पूछा कि ये कब तक रुकेगा और कितने लोगों की जान आप लेंगे। ये सवाल मैंने भी कल उठाया। इसके लिए पूरी तरह से प्रशासन जिम्मेदार है। देखिए, कल मैनहोल्स का काम बारिश में करना ही नहीं है। मैंने 15 जून को लेटर दिया था आयुक्त मैडम को कि आप मुंबई में सबको आदेश दीजिए, आपके अधिकारियों को, कि मुंबई शहर में मेन होल्स के अंदर जो सिक्योरिटी नेट रहती है, झाली रहती है, वो नहीं लगाई गई है, तो आप लगाइए। लेकिन उन्होंने वो मेरा लेटर लेके रख दिया खाली, उसके ऊपर कोई कार्रवाई की नहीं। ये उनका बहुत शर्मनाक काम था और मैंने उनकी रिजिग्नेशन की मांग भी की थी कल, क्योंकि इसके लिए सब हर हालत में ये हमारे प्रशासकीय
लेकिन सर आप मेयर के ऊपर सवाल उठा रहे हैं, आप भी तो उसी पोजीशन में है ना, डेप्यूटी मेयर के।
आयुक्त मैडम के ऊपर, क्योंकि हम क्या करते हैं, मेयर और डिप्यूटी मेयर या पूरे नगर सेवक हम प्रशासन को आदेश देते हैं, प्रशासन को दिखाते हैं कि ये ऐसी ऐसी चीजें होनी चाहिए और वो प्रशासन करती है। अभी मेन होल जाकर के वहाँ का कर्मचारी, वहाँ का जो इंजीनियर वो चेक कर सकता है, महापौर, डिप्यूटी मेयर या कोई कमेटी के चेयरमैन जाके नहीं देख सकते। हमें पता है कि ये चीजें नहीं हुई है, तो आपको करने चाहिए।
सर फिर एक की टोपी दूसरे सर ऐसे ही अगर करते रहेंगे सर, तो फिर लोग कहाँ जाएंगे? अब लोग क्या अपने घर के बाहर भी ना निकले? काम पे तो सभी को जाना है। अब लोग घर के बाहर निकलते हैं, बाहर पानी फंसा हुआ होता है, पानी में जाते हैं, इलेक्ट्रोक्यूट हो जाते हैं, उसकी जिम्मेदारी फिर कौन लेगा सर?
देखिए, ये घटना अभी इतने लाखों 1,47,000 मेन होल्स है। ये मेन होल का काम, जो खाली बिठाने का काम वो कॉन्ट्रैक्टर कर रहा था और उसके बारे में किसी अधिकारियों को मालूमात नहीं थी, ना किसी अधिकारियों ने भी वहां पे आके देखा ये, और उसके बैरिकेटिंग नहीं थी, और इसके लिए पूरी तरह से वो कॉन्ट्रैक्टर और उसके आदमी जिम्मेदार है और उसके ऊपर निगरानी रखनी चाहिए प्रशासकीय अधिकारियों ने। इसलिए उनको 4 लोगों को सस्पेंड किया गया है और ये रुकना चाहिए। मेरी भी मांग है, किसी की भी जान नहीं जानी चाहिए।
सर आपकी पावर शेयरिंग है, अगर सिविक अथॉरिटी के बारे में बात करी जाए और अगर इसी तरीके से आगे काम चलता रहा तो फिर कम से कम लोगों को वो राहत तो मिलनी चाहिए ना सर। अब हर साल ये नहीं हो सकता है कि जब ही बारिश का मौसम शुरू होए महाराष्ट्र में अब इस तरह के जो इंसिडेंट्स है वो बार बार रिपोर्ट किए जाए। जो सबसे निचले लेवल के जो लोग, जो अधिकारी, जो इंजीनियर्स होते हैं उनको सस्पेंड कर देते हैं, तो आपको लगता है वहीं पे सब जिम्मेदारी खत्म हो जाती है?
नहीं, देखो, इसके लिए मैंने आयुक्त मैडम का ही रेजिग्नेशन मांगा था, क्योंकि जो मुखिया है इस मुंबई महानगर पालिका के प्रशासकीय अधिकारी और कर्मचारी, जो मुखिया है जिनके हाथ में कानूनन उनको राइट्स है, उनको मैंने जिम्मेदार ठहराया है।
जी चलिए, धन्यवाद संजय जी आपका हमारे साथ जुड़ने के लिए। वेल, एज फार एज responsibility is concerned, that is something which is now being demanded on part of the people there, because this seems to be a growing outrage every year annually that is witnessed, especially in Maharashtra. Thank you very much, Rucha, and to you, Rakesh, for joining in. Let's in the meantime quickly shift focus and get you this breaking update, because amid the concerns over this application that had triggered over e-rickshaw shutdowns, this is an immediate action that has been undertaken by the government, with the IT Ministry has now directed Google Play Store and the Apple App Store to remove the BAT BMS application. Now, this app, which has now been taken down from both of the platforms, as it was allegedly being used to remotely switch off e-rickshaws, and this action was taken amid concerns over security risk and the potential for misuse. Let's connect with Sabya on this. So, Sabya, we have the government immediately springing into action. This application rather was being misused as a prank there. However, it could have caused deadly incidents.
Well, that's right. See, a lot of influencers as well as pranksters use this app to remotely shut down e-rickshaws in various states across the country, and several state government, in fact, have raised concern. And the IT Ministry today spurred into action, and they have asked the Google Play Store as well as the Apple Play Store to ban this app immediately in India. The app, which is BAT BMS, the app is manufactured by China. Now the message from the IT Ministry is very much loud and clear that such app cannot be tolerated, because it increases the risk of safety concern. Because if you talk about the e-rickshaw drivers who earn around 400 to 500 rupees daily, if their battery is being drained out or remotely stopped, it causes problem for their livelihood, as well as put the passengers' life at risk as well. And that is the reason why a strong action coming in from the IT ministry, and the IT ministry has also stated that they are going to track down on similar such apps in Apple Play Store as well as in Google Play Store to make sure that these apps are immediately taken down.
All right, so this is the action that has been initiated by the government, because we've seen several videos that are now being circulated of people using the application to stop the e-rickshaws remotely. That seems to have gone viral across social media platforms, and to which we are now looking at the government that has now stepped in and has asked for the removal of this application, which is turning out to be a controversial one apart when it comes to its misuse, because this BAT-BMS that is being used by the people to remotely shut down e-rickshaws and via Bluetooth connection, and the videos that the people have been using as a prank with this application to stop the e-rickshaws remotely has gone viral across social media platforms. And now they seem to be looking out, especially when it comes to the government, which has now taken up this very step. The concerns that has been growing, which is now the government, the IT ministry in particular, directing both Google Play Store and the Apple App Store to remove the BAT-BMS application. And this app, what is now being said, has been taken down from both of the platforms. And it was being alleged that it was being used remotely to switch off e-rickshaws. Now, as far as when it comes to the battery management application is now concerned, and after connecting the app to the battery, and also when it comes to the display that immediately goes blank, and the driver of that vehicle was unable to restart the e-rickshaw until it was switched back on the same application. So that seems to be the dangers that it was posing, and especially when it comes to the people there on the vehicle, well, their lives were also put at risk. So this is now coming in from the clips that quickly went viral, sparking concern among drivers, dealers and the EV users over the possibility of the misuse of connected battery management systems. Well, in the meantime, let's shift focus this afternoon and talk about a huge embarrassment that is now coming in for terror state Pakistan. Now, what is being said that it had received warnings from the UN's cultural arm, and this is coming in from UNESCO recently, which has issued delisting warning to Pakistan over its so-called conservation work in the Vedic era archaeological complex of Taxila. Now, as per UNESCO, the use of cement for conservation of ancient sites is a serious violation of restoration norms and could result in the site being delisted from its list of the World Heritage sites. As per reports, UNESCO has said that the intervention at the heritage site have compromised its authenticity and integrity, and if corrective measures were not taken, that Taxila could be placed on the organization's list of the World Heritage in danger. And the controversy that revolves around restoration work carried out at Sirkap and Mohra Muradu. These are two crucial monuments within Taxila archaeological complex, in which it seems that as far as in the name of conservation, in the wake of restoration, Pakistani government has now got this warning rather from UNESCO that otherwise it would be delisted if it still continues with its conservation work in the Vedic era archaeological complex. Now, this understanding that is now coming on part of UNESCO's warning to Pakistan over this reconstruction at Taxila site, saying that they will not hesitate to delist Taxila, and also saying that asking the Pakistani government to stop the unnecessary intervention. And if this intervention continues, then it will compromise with the integrity of the site, because the site is now at a risk of being put on a danger list. And asking why this restoration work is being carried out, because according to them, it is now a violation of the rules. And this seems to be a clear violation that is now being carried out on part of the Pakistani side, which UNESCO has now issued a warning over the reconstruction at Taxila, which is the Vedic era city. Now, in the meantime, when we talk about the heritage site and its destruction or its tinkering, which is not something new coming in from Pakistan, because we just told you about a 125-year-old historic Gurudwara getting demolished in Pakistan's Punjab province, which had sparked protests by the minority Sikh community in the area, and the act that drew a lot of criticism from India as well, which strongly condemned it as highly deplorable and a targeted act of vandalism against the Gurudwara Sri Guru Singh Sabha Sahib, a revered Sikh shrine. And that seems to be the case where, after all of these incidents that have now been reported in Pakistan under the guise of doing conservation work or restoration work, this is a straight out warning that has now been issued on part of UNESCO to Pakistan. Now, with this restoration work or this conservation work that is now being carried out, the UN has asked Pakistan to reverse the reconstructions that has undermined the integrity of the two historical sites in Taxila, warning that the failure to act over this would result in the placement of UNESCO's danger list. Let's connect with Ankit on this. So, Ankit, चाहे वो गुरुद्वारा हो, चाहे वो वैदिक सिटी एरा के बारे में अगर बात की जाए, ये रेस्टोरेशन का काम है। यहाँ पे जहाँ तक हमारी हिस्ट्री है, जहां हमारे ओरिजिन्स हैं, इतने सालों पुरानी अगर ये बातें हैं और अगर जो उनकी बिल्डिंग्स है, जो मॉन्यूमेंट्स है, अगर उन्हें तोड़ा जाए, उन्हीं के साथ छेड़छाड़ की जाए, तो एक्शन फिर क्यों ना लिया जाए पाकिस्तान के खिलाफ?
बिल्कुल सही कह रहे हैं आप। और ये रियलिटी है पाकिस्तान की कि किस तरीके से मिनॉरिटी के लोगों को वहां पर सताया जाता है, किस तरीके से वहां पे हमने देखा है कई बार कि मंदिरों को तोड़ा जाता है, गुरुद्वारों को तोड़ा जाता है। ये साफ तौर पे दिखाता है कि किस तरीके से पाकिस्तान लगातार मिनॉरिटी के लोगों को वहां पर तंग करता आया है। ये रिसेंट इंसिडेंट है जो वहां पे साफ तौर पे देखने को मिल रहा है कि गुरुद्वारा साहब को किस तरीके से डिमोलिश किया जा रहा है। ये साफ दिखाता है कि पाकिस्तान की करनी और कतनी में कितना ज्यादा अंतर है और ये वहां पर पाकिस्तान के अलग अलग प्रांतों में किस तरीके से वहां पे जो प्राचीन गुरुद्वारे हैं, जो प्राचीन मंदिर हैं, उनके साथ छेड़छाड़ की जाती है।
Absolutely. And this is now coming across of a nearly 125-year-old Sikh shrine in Pakistan's Punjab province that was also raised by the authorities. Ankit, आपका बहुत-बहुत धन्यवाद हमारे साथ जुड़ने के लिए. And this has now been said after triggering a lot of protests coming in from the minority Sikh community and also drawing strong diplomatic response from India as far as this historic Gurudwara Shri Guru Singh Sabha Sahib in Farrukhabad, around 70 kilometers from Lahore, was demolished by a businessman who allegedly failed to obtain the mandatory no objection certificate from the relevant authorities. And however, this has now come across as far as when we talk about the unnecessary intervention that has now been done on Pakistan's behalf, especially when it comes to the Vedic era city of Taxila. Now, this seems to be a warning that has now come in from the UNESCO side saying that don't do any restoration work, especially in the areas. If you do that, then you run the risk of being delisted, and stop the unnecessary intervention and the interventions that are actually compromising with the integrity. We are awaiting a response to come in from Pakistan's side, especially what it has to say as far as its explanation of demolishing a Gurudwara, and also when it comes to the sites that are now being put on the risk of a danger list by UNESCO. In the meantime, we head into a very short break. You're watching Times Now.
Let's begin with breaking updates now coming in from Tamil Nadu. It's a big story. The former DMK minister and current MLA Anita Radhakrishnan has been arrested by the police after the court dismisses anticipatory bail petition in connection with a case that was registered over his remarks against Chief Minister Joseph Vijay. Now remember, addressing a public gathering, Anita Radhakrishnan had made defamatory comments against Chief Minister Joseph Vijay. In fact, we have that reaction, that statement that he had made. He crossed the line, and here is what he went on to say. We have DMK leader Mr. Saravanan joining us on the broadcast. Thank you for joining us. Mr. Saravanan, what do you have to say about the crackdown against the defamatory statements made against the Chief Minister?
This is a vengeful act of the TVK government. This vengeance is to divert the attention of the common man from the failure, spectacular failure of the TVK. They're not able to stop the murders. Yesterday, there was a 5-year-old was murdered in broad daylight. The head was severed. And his father, the child's father, was also murdered. And
okay, diversionary tactic. But Mr. Saravanan, do you also want to slam the DMK Neta or question him regarding his statements? Because he seemed to be making very personal remarks against the Chief Minister.
Yeah, he has made a personal remark. So you'll have to arrest him, is it? Will the TVK government arrest all the TVK members who are making personal remarks against our leaders? If they do that, then we welcome this.
Okay, all right.
On the one hand, they are not doing anything against their own party members. We have given almost 20-25 complaints. I can show them all to you.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay,
but
so
no action on
selective
that.
action by the TVK government. That's your charge. All right, Mr. Saravanan, thank you for joining us. In fact, we have a reaction coming in from Ms. Kanimori as well. She has also taken to social media, and the DMK continues to slam the TVK government, going on to say that this is an anarchic arrest by a tyrannical government. This is what Kanimori has gone on to say. She has taken to social media and has said that the arrest of the former minister and DMK secretary of Thoothukudi South District by the police of the tyrannical government is strongly condemnable. The opposition MLA, while engaged in inspection work in his constituency, has been arrested in an utterly anarchic manner by this tyrannical government. The BJP, my apologies, the DMK will never bow down to such oppressive tactics. So that's a response that has come in from the DMK on this. So DMK says that this is tyrannical, but the complaint had been registered in this regard, and the court also refused any relief, after which now Anita Radhakrishnan has been taken into custody. And with that, we shift our attention now to another story from Tamil Nadu. A week to go for Chief Minister Vijay's visit to Karur. This is his first official visit to the district after becoming the Chief Minister. It's going to be a test for his political career and also administrative skills of his government. This is the first official visit of the Chief Minister. The Chief Minister, Joseph Vijay, is scheduled to visit on the 10th of July. He will be meeting the families of the stampede victims. Although Vijay had, remember, visited Trichy last month, it was in his capacity as the TVK chief because he won from the constituency. He wanted to thank the voters of Trichy East. Karur has been chosen for his first official visit. It's a very symbolic move because he would be meeting the families of the 41 victims who died during the stampede during his political rally when he was campaigning. It happened last year, and it is a moment that Vijay has described as a moment that will forever be etched in his memory, a very painful chapter in his political career. He in fact also went on to mention Karur during his speech in the assembly. Remember, Vijay had also previously met the family members of the victims at a resort in Mahabalipuram. But this is going to be significant because it's the first time that he is visiting them in Karur, the very same place where the stampede took place. But ahead of his visit, blame game continues because you have the PWD Minister Adhav Arjuna alleging that it was the previous DMK government that conspired to kill 41 people in Karur, while the DMK claimed that it was the delay by Vijay that is to blame for the stampede.
எனக்கு கரூர் வந்து ரொம்ப முக்கியமான ஊர். ஒரு கணக்கு வழக்கு இருக்கு. அந்த கணக்கு வழக்க முடிக்காம விட மாட்டோம். இதே மண்டபத்துல சொன்னோம். எங்க தலைவரை கை வச்சீங்கல கரூர்ல, எங்க மக்களை கை வச்சீங்கல ஸ்டாலின் அவர்களே, திரு உதயநிதி அவருடைய வாழ்க்கைக்காக எங்களுடைய மக்களை காவல்துறை மூலமா கொன்று குவிச்சீங்களா, அதுக்கான பதில் ஒரு நேரத்தில் நடக்கும்.
See, it's an atrocious lie that Mr. Adhav Arjuna is repeating, that it is the DMK government using the police. It has happened. Everybody is aware who is responsible for that. It was Mr. Vijay who was responsible for that. He came late. The police officers there asked him to stop, but he did not do that. He should have stopped. He had seen people falling. They did not stop. How can an accused person in that case make allegations? It is an intimidation of the witnesses.
So this is the political war of words taking place, but this visit of the Chief Minister to Karur is also going to be extremely significant because remember, Karur has been one incident that has also led to him being attacked multiple times politically previously by the DMK as well. But let's get you more breaking updates now coming in. The DMK has objected to the Chief Minister meeting the families, urging the Supreme Court to restrain him. In fact, we have details coming in after the remarks that were made by the TVK minister. DMK has actually approached the top court and has slammed these remarks. Legal editor Harish Nair joins us on the broadcast with the details. So, Harish, the Chief Minister Vijay is expected to visit Karur on the 10th of July. Before that, a lot of politics playing out. But what is this appeal of the DMK to the Supreme Court? What are the details?
Yes, a big development as far as the Karur stampede and the ongoing war between DMK and TVK is concerned. DMK has moved Supreme Court against TVK leader and Minister Adav Arjuna. More importantly, DMK also objects to CM Vijay meeting families. DMK urged Supreme Court to restrain CM Vijay, Tamil Nadu Minister Adav Arjuna, and other accused persons from making public statements on the ongoing CBI investigation, and to regulate their interaction with victims' families during the pendency of the probe. DMK moved to Supreme Court seeking to restrain Adav Arjuna and others from making public statements that could influence the ongoing probe. So very, very serious allegation being made by DMK against TVK, saying that they are trying to influence the ongoing CBI probe into the Karur stampede. And remember, Pratibha, Arjuna is an accused in Karur stampede case, and it was the Supreme Court which had ordered CBI probe into Karur stampede on October 14, 2025. That is why the DMK wants to get included in the Supreme Court proceedings. DMK has sought safeguards for victims' families who are witnesses and a directive for the CBI to examine Adav Arjuna's allegations. Petition comes after explosive remarks from Adav Arjuna, who alleged that the stampede was planned by the police under the DMK rule. The DMK has fiercely denied these claims, arguing that such statements and TVK Chief Vijay's proposed visit to victims' families are deliberate attempts to intimidate witnesses and interfere with CBI's investigation. So, Pratibha, again, DMK making a very, very serious allegation here, saying that Vijay's proposed visit to victims' families are deliberate attempts to intimidate witnesses and interfere with CBI's investigation.
Okay, all right. Harish, thank you for joining us with all those details. Clearly, there was already a lot of political drama that was taking place. And now, clearly, we're also seeing a legal tussle play out. Let's see how this is going to play out. Harish, thank you for joining us with all those details. With that, let's get you more breaking updates coming in from Tamil Nadu of another ex-AIADMK Mantri quitting the party with sources saying that Vegai Chelvan was upset with, again, Edapadi Palaniswamy. So the ex-minister was upset over an alleged collusion with the DMK. So yet again, we are seeing another exit. Remember, there have been multiple exits from the AIADMK. Many of these leaders have also joined the TVK. And there are serious questions being raised on the political leadership of Edapadi K. Palaniswamy. And now we're seeing in the latest another AIADMK leader as well quitting from the party. The question is whether there will again be a switch to the TVK. Multiple of these leaders have resigned from the AIADMK only to join the TVK later. All right, with that, let's shift our attention now to Karnataka. Viewers, the horrific visuals from the daycare in Bengaluru sent shockwaves, not just in Bengaluru or Karnataka, but across the country. And finally, police officials have initiated action in the case. The caretaker, the so-called caretaker seen in the video, Vijay Lakshmi, has been arrested by the police, with the police also finding substantial evidence against her. They're verifying the details of 3 other workers as well. Remember, in the visuals, and this is from an on-campus daycare inside the Capgemini Technology Park in Bengaluru's Brookfield. Now the caretaker has been arrested for abusing these toddlers by locking them up in bathrooms and keeping them inside even washing machines. The police officials are also investigating the role and responsibilities of Capgemini and also an agency called Little Scholar in the case. We have more breaking updates now coming in. The National Commission for Protection of Child Rights has also taken suo motu cognizance of the physical abuse and torture of the children at the daycare center operating inside the IT company's Bengaluru campus in Brookfield. In a letter dated the 2nd of July, addressed to the Bengaluru Urban Deputy Commissioner, the NCPCR has said that its team, headed by senior technical expert, will visit Bengaluru for a fact-check inquiry. So an inquiry has been initiated, and my colleague Akshara is joining us on the broadcast with the details. Akshara, this case has been extremely shocking for every parent. This is a nightmare to see how the toddlers had been physically assaulted in the daycare. What are the details of the action being taken? Has only one caretaker been arrested, or are the police officials also looking at arresting all those who were working in this daycare facility?
Well, if you take a look at the FIR copy pertaining to this case registered at the HL police station, 5 caretakers have been booked in this particular case, and we are getting to learn that one caretaker, that is Vijay Lakshmi, she has been arrested and she was produced before the court, and the court has sent her to 14 days judicial custody. So that's one of the big update pertaining to this case. So Vijay Lakshmi, the first caretaker, has been arrested, and also we spoke to the cops and they are stating that they are verifying the details pertaining to the 3 other caregivers as well. So once they get the substantial evidence pertaining to these 3 other caregivers, they'll also be taken into custody, and further investigation will be taking place. And at the very same time, the Karnataka Home Minister has sought details pertaining to this case that has taken place in this IT campus, and he has also sought details on the policy that is in place in this particular IT campus, because he stated that it's a global company and global companies have such policies where it should be implemented efficiently to ensure that such incidents do not take place. Whether there were lapses in implementation of any policies is also being looked at. He has also sought information pertaining to the policy and implementation, and is also keen on getting to understand whether there was any lapses in the background verification of these caregivers who were working there. So all these details are being collected by the Karnataka Home Department as well. So yes, the latest update is that one caregiver has been arrested and she has been sent to 15 days judicial custody, and also further investigation is also underway.
Okay, all right. Akshara, thank you for getting us all those details, because imagine the plight of the parents. These are toddlers who couldn't even speak up, and this was the kind of unbearable torture that they were going through at the daycare facilities. These were individuals who were entrusted with the care of these toddlers, and this is the kind of torture that the children had to go through. Thank you, Akshara, for getting us all those details. Viewers, with that, it's time for us to slip into a very short break here, but don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with lots more after this break. Welcome back. Well, viewers, it appears that trouble is far from over for actor Dulquer Salmaan in the case pertaining to the alleged smugglings of luxury vehicles from Bhutan, because the customs is reportedly gearing up to question him yet again. Officials have already grilled him previously at the department's Kochi office, and now reports say that they're looking for more details, and that's the reason why he has been summoned again. But let's tell you how this entire operation actually unfolded, because Times Now has accessed the inside details of how the operation was allegedly planned and executed. Agencies suspect that over 200 high-end luxury vehicles have been illegally imported from not just Bhutan but also Nepal in the past 2 years. So these are low import duty and relatively porous borders between India and Bhutan. That was the reason for the smuggling from the region, because they exploited this, the smugglers bringing in this illegal import, high-end vehicles like Defender, Maserati being brought in for the past couple of years. Now, those running the racket had forged the name, the seal, the insignia of even the Indian Army, the US Embassy and more. They, in fact, also purportedly misled the buyers. Now, remember, the buyers are being questioned by the officials, including Dulquer Salmaan as well. And Dulquer Salmaan is said to have told the officials that he had no information about it. But the information suggests that the officials also believe that all of the buyers had been duped or trapped into believing that the vehicles are actually genuine. Most of these smuggled vehicles were registered with forged documents at the Regional Transportation Office. My colleague Arpita is getting us the details of the questioning. Arpita, Dulquer Salmaan likely to be questioned again, but what are the details? What were the questions that were asked to him, and what has he responded to the officials?
Well, Well, Pratibha rightly said so. As per customs officials, the buyers are actually duped. They did not have any information on if these vehicles were smuggled from different countries like Bhutan and Nepal. So currently, earlier also, actor Dulquer Salmaan was questioned because 4 of his vehicles, luxury cars, were seized by customs officials. So when he was summoned earlier, when he was questioned earlier, what we are being able to know is that about the documents, about buying and what are the procedure, who was the person who sold the vehicle to Dulquer Salmaan. All of these questions were asked to him. Now, the customs have learned that there are more vehicles that are linked to Dulquer Salmaan. Earlier, 4 vehicles were already seized, but now they suspect that about 5 more vehicles are linked to Dulquer Salmaan. So again, they will be summoning him to, first they will try to get the details of those vehicles, and then they will give him a date to summon him to get the details on when did he buy it, who was the seller, from where did he get it, what was the amount, and what was the documents he had given. Even though Dulquer Salmaan had clearly mentioned that he did not have any idea that these vehicles were smuggled. In fact, he claims that whatever procedure had to be followed, he had followed. He had got the vehicle through proper channels. But customs believe that there are more vehicles, and to get more details of the racket and people involved in this, the buyers are being questioned, Pratibha.
Okay, all right. Arpita, thank you for getting us all those details.